IPv6 uses this EUI64 process to calculate the interface ID, and now you get a chance to do your own calculations with this next multi-choice question. All the questions sits on this one page, so if you're ready to go ahead and answer not knowing the number of correct answers, go ahead and hit pause. If not, you've now seen that there's one correct answer, so option number 2 for you to pause and answer the question. Now let's talk about what the question means and do a little bit of analysis, and I'll give you that one more chance to pause and answer for yourself. That short 2 lines of STEM boils down to this. What unicast IPv6 addresses will R1 use on its interface G0/1? Basically that. And just as to reiterate, interface is working, all configuration is shown, so we're not trying to trick you by leaving things out. So we see that there's a MAC address and an IPv6 address command. In the 5 answers, 3 of them list global unicast addresses and 2 list link local addresses. That's it. Here's your last chance if you'd like to pause before I say more. The link local address with this configuration will be automatically added, and it will be created with EUI64 logic. And with the configuration you saw in the IPv6 address command, the global unicast address will be formed with EUI64 logic. So they'll both have the same interface ID portions of their address. As a reminder, you take the prefix that's half the address, then you take the MAC, split it, put fox, 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 easy in the middle of it, and then flip the 7th bit of the interface ID. That's the overall process. So let's talk about splitting the MAC. The MAC is 0200B bad, as you see there. So we split the 0200BE on the left, then the AD bad on the right, and put the fox, fox, fox easy in the middle, and that's your 16 hex digits of interface ID, except we need to flip that 7th bit. You look at the numbers just under each of those hex digits. You look over there on the far left, you see 1-4, 5-8. So bit 7 is there in the 2nd hex digit. It's the 3rd bit in the 2nd hex digit. So let's talk about that. On the right, you just got a hex to binary conversion chart for convenience. There's our prefix, we can basically ignore it. There's our host or interface ID so far, and that's for the global unicast address in this case. The 2nd hex digit of the interface ID is hex 2, which converts to 0010, as you can see from the table. The 7th bit overall, which is the 3rd bit in this hex digit, has a value of binary 1, so we flip it to a 0. Simple enough. And convert that 4-bit value back to hex, which of course converts to a hex 0. So we basically changed the 2nd hex digit from 2 to 0 to complete the EUI64 process. Now if we did the same thing with the link local, of course you'd end up with the same interface ID portion again, as we just discussed. So there's our global unicast address abbreviated, and here's our link local that, as always, starts foxeasy80 with all zeros in the first half, and there with the new interface ID listed on the right, and that gets abbreviated to foxeasy80 with the value you see at the end. So you could take these 2 numbers and then just compare it, the global unicast to the first 3 answers and the link local to the last 2. So those first 3 answers, the first one, A, is incorrect, B is incorrect, but C happens to match the correct global unicast address that we just saw calculated. The other 2 answers are link local addresses. Now, look back at the STEM. It says which answers are unicast IPv6 addresses. Sometimes people don't realize that link locals are indeed unicast. They are local to each link, but they are indeed unicast addresses. For instance, as next hop addresses, they're the address that you send packets to the next router. So they're not multicast, they are unicast. So they are available as legitimate options. It turns out that both of these answers are incorrect because they don't happen to match the correctly calculated EUI64 link local address. So both are incorrect, and there's the summary of the correct and incorrect answers.